Lucy. I'm very glad to have you on our Wisdom videocasts. So let me just talk a little bit about myself. I'm Dirk. I'm the Executive Director of Wisdom, which stands for Women in Science Demonstrating Outstanding Merits, a nonprofit organization here in the USA to help really women in science to make the transition from academia into industry. That's the specific purpose we are currently leaning towards. And I'm very glad to have you here, Lucy, from CM Life Sciences, based in the UK, but also serving the US market.
Yep.
Lucy, would you do me the favor to tell us a little bit more about yourself as well as CM Life Sciences, please?
Of course. So thank you for having me, first of all. It was a real honor to be invited onto this. And it's a really great project. So even more to be involved in that. I'm a specialist recruiter within the life science space. So have a particular insight into getting women into career positions, recruiting women from academia. But as a whole, Charlton Morris, the recruitment company that I work for, is a global search and selection firm. So although I'm based in the UK, I operate globally, not only in the US market, but across EMEA and APAC. But I focus and niche myself into the lab equipment space, and more specifically in biotech. So anything from consumables, benchtop lab equipment, into robotics, automation, liquid handling, and working with a huge array of clients from big companies to small companies. And that in a nutshell is what I do. So
it's great, because usually on these on this series of videocasts, we talk to women in science who are scientists themselves and talk about their history, their story, how they got where they are today, what the obstacles have been that they're facing. And having you from the other side as a recruiter, I think that gives a lot of insight into what you hear, and also how you advise people how to make their career moves. And yeah, I know you also did some blog posts, and you are doing a lot, in fact, putting out a lot of content around the lab space, the laboratory industry, the life sciences specifically, but also you did a blog post about women in science specifically, which was interesting and caught my attention, of course. So when you talk to women in science, what do you hear from them? Are there certain obstacles that they're raising towards you, and how to address them?
I think a lot of the obstacles that women go through in any career position can be transferred across all industries, in honesty. But I think specifically what women in science experience is, wondering where they fit in exactly. And I think from the podcast that you've seen me do and the content that I've put out on, women in science and women in STEM, some of the feedback that I've had is that, it is difficult because, as with, again, like I said, a lot of industries, but sometimes in science, whether you're in a senior leadership role or whether you're in a lower level position, like, a sales rep or anything like that, you tend to be up against a majority of men. So, if you're in a board meeting, you could be the only woman in a room full of 10 guys. And, not everyone does it consciously, but it's quite hard to really then have a voice and to really be heard. And I think what a lot of women in science, the obstacles that they go through, and again, not only in science, but is motherhood and just all of these things that can be a fear to progress your own career. Or, is this going to stop me? Do I have to choose career, or do I have to choose my family? Am I going to be judged when I walk through the door? Are people going to take me seriously and listen to what I have to say? Which unfortunately sometimes and still is not the case. But they're the main things that I hear.
Do you see more women applying for jobs than in the past? Let's say, do you see a trend over the years that there's a change? Are there more than before?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that comes from companies over the past couple of years being really kind of taking charge of diversity and doing that in a way that's not positive discrimination either, because you we don't want to hire people to tick boxes, but everyone knows that diversity breeds innovation, it breeds creativity, and a happier workforce in general. And I think because of that, we are seeing more women in senior leadership roles. An example is Eva Van Pelt, the CEO of Eppendorf, who does loads for diversity herself. And I think little things like that are door openers for people, to be able to envision yourself or see someone that was in your position in the lab in science, 20 years ago, now the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the space, that's inspirational. And it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And I think that that's now a driving factor. And LinkedIn is a really great pusher for that, showcasing these women in senior leadership roles, which then, opens the door for other women to say, I want to do that too. I can do that. And so yeah, there is positive change, definitely.
And so these women, like you just mentioned, Eppendorf, then they are also role models for others, obviously,
Yes.
and make them more secure and self-confident in applying for these jobs. That's great to hear. Do you also think there's a need for mentorship somehow? Is that something you hear a lot?
I think so. I mean, it completely depends on the individual. But because some people, are quite going from a research position, in academia, for example, you've been studying, you've been researching, and then going into a business role and being in a position where you're being managed by a male or mentored by a male, there are particular things that, might come across your day-to-day life as a woman that you wouldn't be comfortable maybe talking about to a male mentor, that with a woman mentor, you can be very open and say, this is bothering me, I'm a little bit, and it's just a little bit more of an open relationship. And I think that would be great, because some people aren't confident communicating to senior men, but obviously some people are. But I think mentorship would only benefit anyone, not just women, but just in general. It's always good to have someone helping you and guiding you.
Definitely. And as you are a woman as well as a recruiter, do these applicants feel more comfortable talking to you also when they address these issues in the recruiting process?
I think so. I think that's just about, immediate rapport. I think it's the same as if someone supports the same football team, as soon as you've got those similarities, you do get along. But obviously it is my job to make someone feel comfortable anyway, to be welcoming and make someone feel comfortable, represent my client. But also I'm aware that, the communications that I have with candidates are really influential on what they're going to want to do, and the experiences that they have through me are going to be influential. So I think that people are more comfortable speaking to female recruiters if you're a female.
And yeah, that's great to hear. And when you are talking to your clients, which are the companies who are looking to fill the open positions, do you also sense that they are more open now than before to female candidates that you bring in front of them?
Well, I think I'm lucky enough to always work with open companies anyway. I've never worked with a client that's said anything specifically about gender, and I think it's always been a focus of getting the best candidate in. So I've never actually experienced that, and I think everyone that I put forward, whether it's a male or a female, gets appreciated for their resume and their achievements rather than, their gender, which is great to see as well.
Just talking about resumes, because you are overlooking the whole process, are there certain hints and tips that you would give somebody how to prepare the resume in a modern fashion that is attractive for your client or yourself?
I think it completely depends on your industry again. I mean, if you're a PhD and you've got lots of publications, your resume is probably going to be a little bit longer. I think short and sweet always kind of works, straight to the point. Just like if you think about if you were going to do a presentation, you'd have a couple of bullet points on each point and expand on that when you were in an interview or something. And just think about what's really important. Think about what highlights you best as a person and what you think's really necessary. Streamline it as much as possible to showcase your best attributes. And that would be my advice.
Very good. So we at Wisdom also did some training in colleges for about communication, because some of these young graduate women told us that they sometimes don't feel so confident compared to their male counterparts in the interview situation. Is that also something you hear sometimes? And what do you recommend there?
Yeah. I think that again feeds from what I was saying previously about not that many women being in leadership roles. And I think if you're in a panel presentation, for example, and you're presenting to four men, whether those men intend to or not, it is quite an intimidating environment for someone. And I think for anyone, my best advice would just be to back yourself, be confident. People are not like that anymore. People are not looking at the fact that you're a female or you're a male.
Sure.
It's all about what you can do, what you can offer, and get your personality across more than anything would be my
Absolutely.
best advice for that. And just have some confidence, because as soon as you lose that bit of confidence, I think, although it's warranted, because people do get nervous, but you can tell. And I think if you're going for a position where you're going to be customer focused, especially, it's really important to demonstrate that through your body language, through your smiling, through your
Yes.
confidence, and that's what will shine through, and you'll walk away feeling great, I think.
Absolutely. And that's something we focused on in our communication trainings as well: body language, posture, and even micro expressions in your face, as you are just referring to. And the other thing is, when you are going into these interviews, of course, you should be a little bit nervous, because you were just talking about being nervous. I think that's something nobody should be afraid of.
Exactly.
Because also an actor usually has some stage fright, and that's a good thing, to be a little bit tense, to have all this energy which is bubbling up then in the moment of the interview. I think that's a good thing.
Of course, and it's important to be confident but not arrogant, and to not be too
Yes.
confident. And I think so a good way to do that, I mean, I know obviously we're in a pandemic at the moment, but I would always recommend, whether you're female or not, to go in and shake hands, because I think that can often be seen as quite a masculine thing to do, approach someone, shake the hand, say, hi, I'm XYZ from XYZ, I'm interested in this. But if you go and you're like, hi, and it's like, oh, okay, she's got some tenacity, she's confident, she knows what she's doing.
So that means, summarizing that, be natural, be authentic, and you said don't be arrogant. Absolutely. I think arrogance results out of a low self-esteem very often. So yeah, just you. That's also my recommendation that I would give, so we are in agreement.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people go for culture now, and if you're going to fit into their culture, so personalities sometimes just as, if not more important than the credentials on your resume. If you've got a PhD in microbiology, but you're not getting your personality across, then often someone who has got their personality across will get the position over you. So I think just be yourself and show that you're personable and authentic, like you said there, and it's winning.
And you referred also to the pandemic that we see in 2020, 2021 right now. So I assume many of your interviews that you are facilitating are taking place virtually.
Yes.
Is that more difficult compared to a face-to-face one? Do you hear any feedback regarding this?
I think it can be difficult on both sides, because I think, although there's a lot to learn from this in terms of travel and what's necessary, but nothing will ultimately ever take over a face-to-face meeting. And I think for a candidate, especially if you're making a move in an uncertain time like a pandemic, to be able to go somewhere and see the headquarters and meet the team, and just not even just like the people you get introduced to, but walking down a hallway, for example, and saying hello to people you pass, and that whole experience is so important to an onboarding process, not only for the candidate but for the client, to see how the candidate acts in the environment. Are they friendly, are they doing this? And I think videos are good, they've been helpful, don't get me wrong, but you only get to see kind of one. It's very two-dimensional.
Absolutely. Yes.
Which I think has extended the interview process, which is warranted, to have to increase that security that you're making the right decision. And that's from both sides. Candidates often want another process, to be certain that they're making the right decision, and clients want them to meet someone else in the company just to have a second thoughts. So it's been adapted, and it's working, but I don't think it would ever replace, face to face for both sides.
Absolutely. And I think also when interviews are taking place in a virtual environment, like for any other meeting, one has to be aware of the details of good lighting, good sound quality. I think that's also key, that these minor things, if they're not going well, don't distract the interviewee nor the interviewer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about showcasing the best version of yourself, and again for both sides. I mean, if you're yourself, Dirk, the vice president of sales and marketing, you have a lovely office, and we can see that. But it would be great for you to show off what Jalabo worked so hard for. I know that you have a great headquarters, you have really functioning warehouses, and it's all buy-in. And yeah, the way that you look, the lighting and everything is really important. And technical difficulties can really cause problems because first impressions count. And even though it's not your fault, if you get onto a Teams meeting and your internet's down or something like that, out of your hand, it can automatically make an impression that you might not intend to make. And it's a shame, really.
It is, and I'm 100% with you that one really should take care of these details to avoid these kind of negative impressions that could easily come across.
Yeah.
Just coming back to the general labor market, as you see that, we hear everywhere in other industries as well, not only in the laboratory space, but there's a huge labor shortage in the US specifically. Is that something that you sense as well? Because that would mean that more people are reaching out to you, more clients are reaching out to you to fill positions. Is that something that you currently see?
I think there's been a huge increase in technical positions, and I think that that's what we saw from the pandemic. And I think that was number one, because there was a need for more manufacturing, especially within life sciences, consumables in particular. I think speaking with different clients across the globe, I was speaking to someone from Paul in the UK, and he was saying that they're finding that people are actually overstocking. They want extra stocking just in case, because they would fear that things were going to run out, because people wouldn't be going into the warehouses to do the manufacturing. And then I think from that, now the market is more confident that need has gone up, and we know now that it's not gone up and it's going to come down. We know that it's continuing to rise, and that's the need for that. And so yeah, you're completely right.
And when we are talking specifically again about young women leaving academia, universities or colleges, and apply for jobs that you offer for your clients, is there something else that you would recommend, perhaps taking business classes or something like that to get a better understanding how industry ticks?
I think I don't even think you need to do that much. I think utilize the tools that you have, like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a great source for your network. And if you're a young woman who's just graduated from a microbiology degree, and you're really curious, but you're not sure really what line you want to go down, if somebody, for example, Dirk, messaged you on LinkedIn and said, "Oh, I'm thinking about this. Can I have some advice?" You would give them advice. This, that would be not a cost service. That would just be, because it's great to do so. So build up your network, ask as many questions as possible. People in science love to talk about science and love to get people involved. So that's probably one of my best recommendations. And there are so many things online that you can attend, like webinars where you can ask questions. I did a webinar for a local university about women in recruitment. They do like a series talking about questions from university students, asking us how we got over things. And that's all at your disposal. If you go looking for it, you can find it, definitely.
So that would be a recommendation of mine also in general for any interview. Be curious really about the company that you're applying for and prepare for that, because I've sometimes also seen interviewees who don't know a lot about the company they're applying for because they send their resumes to a lot of companies, which I totally understand. But then just prepare half an hour before at least on this company and have questions. You mentioned questions. I think that's very important. That's also one of my recommendations. Ask questions when you are the interviewee and trying to get a job, because I think that makes always the best impression on the person that is providing the job, that you are interested and really have genuine questions. Sometimes when people say, "Oh, I don't have any questions anymore," then I feel, are they really so interested in this? Isn't this the case?
No, I agree. I always say that. I think the more questions you have, the better.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that being curious is great. And I think especially when it's positions like sales, for example, I think there's often a stigma about asking questions about commission, but asking questions about commission just shows how much you have a hunter mentality and that you want
Yes.
to know what you can earn
I
and
think that's a great
confident that you
question.
can do that.
Yes.
And
I love that.
asking as many questions about the team, how that's going to grow, always be curious about the future of the company because people want to hire people who are invested in a longevity of a career and who really want to grow and develop with an organization. And ask about the team, what can you do to get involved, extracurricular activities, or if you have a suggestion, at my previous company, we had a diversity team. Do you have that? If not, could I start something like that? And,
Wow.
get excited.
That's very good advice, Lucy. I think so. And you are now, as a recruiter, working specifically in this segment of life sciences. So is there a difference to other areas? Did you do recruiting for other industries as well? Or how did you get into this niche, by the way, anyhow?
Well, I think it's kind of quite lucky, and I'm really glad that I've fallen into this because I did love science at school, and I think if I would have been told that I could go into a business role as a younger person, I probably might have stuck to it. But I'm quite creative, and I actually went into an art position at university. That's what I studied, and I came to Charlton Morris, and we very much put people in teams based on culture as well. How are they going to thrive? Who are they going to work best with? And then that's when I was put into the life sciences team, and now because we do specialize in our market. I've been doing this for 2.5 years now, 12 hours a day. As you know, content,
Yes.
speaking to people, knowing about what's happening and being able to talk to people that are actually making a difference, I think is really exciting. And I envy people that work in that space. But I'm very grateful that I get to help with that, whether
Yeah.
it's people in senior R&D positions, whether it's sales directors who are selling these instruments to companies for producing things like the vaccine, for example. It's really great to be, even if it's a small clog, still a clog
Yeah.
in that, and helping push things forward.
That's very, very good to hear that. And yeah, that's exciting that you got into this space and really can develop that, because as you said, you are really leaving a mark in this industry, I would say. Of course, we know each other for quite a while right now, but just your name and your company is coming up all the time because you are doing something different. You are doing more than the others, putting out a lot of content about leadership, about management, and again, also about women in science specifically, which is so wonderfully aligned with what Wisdom does. So therefore, you are really standing out there, and therefore building and creating even a larger network. As you said, the network is key. So when we leave your contact details below the video cast, would you encourage people to just get in touch with you, even if
Yes,
they...
please.
Because
Yes,
I think
please.
that would be great for everyone, for them, for your clients, for yourself, and for
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, well, as you know, obviously my primary mission is to recruit, but that's not all I do. It's always good to meet new people in the space.
You add
Whether
really value. You really add more
Yeah,
value than just a normal recruiter. That's what I'm always so...
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Whether you look at my profile and see my content and think, oh, we want to collaborate that way, we can do that. Whether you're a candidate who wants some advice or you're looking for a position, get in touch. If you're a client who has hiring needs, get in touch. Literally anything. I'm open for conversation.
Now, people seeing you on video, I think they also then know who you are, how approachable you are, and that definitely will increase then the activities of them reaching out to you, as well as you can point them to us if they have specific questions about women in science and how to get into industry. We would definitely love to help and overcome certain obstacles, so we could really then work together, you could say, to achieve our goal that more women in science are going into industry. So I would encourage everybody seeing this video cast to get in touch with Wisdom, but also with Lucy Direct, and really make the next move. Be courageous, don't be afraid of it, have enough self-esteem, don't be arrogant. That really would summarize what we just discussed about, I would say. And yeah, it was great having this conversation with you, Lucy. It's a great pleasure. I wish you all the best now for the next month to come, and to fill many, many more positions. And so we do help and try to mentor people, and definitely will change the landscape in the laboratory industry. Thank you so much, Lucy. Have a nice day and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you later.
Thank you.